This exquisite figurine of the Buddha greets you as you enter the British Museum exhibition Silk Roads. Just over 8 centimetres high, the figurine is made from copper alloy and his features are picked out in silver, tin and black niello. On his forehead, the urna, an auspicious mark, was accentuated with precious metal, possibly gold, that still shimmers today. The figurine was probably made in what is now Pakistan in the decades around 600 CE, but the figurine did not stay here. At some point before 800 CE, it embarked on an epic journey that brought it ultimately to the tiny lake island of Helgö, Sweden. This landscape in northern Europe is far away from the popular image of the Silk Road, characterised by camels, desert dunes and spices on sale in bazaars. The Buddha's journey of some 5,000 kilometres may seem unexpected, but it evokes a more expansive vision of the Silk Roads, plural, that forms the basis of this exhibition.
Rather than a single trade route between East and West, this exhibition presents the Silk Roads as overlapping networks that connected Asia, Africa, and Europe. Their arteries ran in multiple directions by land, sea, and river. They carried people, objects, and ideas, which were exchanged in many contexts, including, but not limited to, trade. The show explores a defining period in the Silk Road's long history, around 500 to 1000 CE. This was a time of great activity along these networks. Several significant states were active across continents, commerce increased to a new scale, and major religions, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity, spread across the map, becoming key connectors of communities in different parts of the world.
Silk Roads is an epic exhibition, 5 years in the making and made possible only through networks and collaborations, very much in the spirit of Silk Roads. The exhibition has a team of 3 lead curators supported by a project curator, each with different expertise. We've worked with colleagues across the museum and beyond, drawing upon existing partnerships and forging brand new ones, nationally and internationally, to realize this ambitious undertaking. Silk Roads brings together over 300 objects from Asia, Africa, and Europe, each telling its own story of connection and exchange. Artifacts from the museum's permanent collections are joined by others from 29 lenders to the show. Shipwrecked cargoes from the ocean floor, items sealed away for centuries, textiles preserved by arid climates, and myriad other treasures, many displayed for the very first time in the UK.
The result is a unique chance to view objects from across 3 continents together in one space in conversation with each other as never before. The objects, as well as exciting new research, reveal the scope and scale of networks that may be called the Silk Roads. We will now embark on an epic journey along these networks from East Asia to Northwest Europe, highlighting a selection of objects that evoke the movement of people, objects, and ideas across these connected lands.
We begin our journey in East Asia and the capitals of Nara, Japan, Shilla, Korea, and Tang Dynasty China. While China is closely associated with the Silk Roads, these networks extended further east, such as through the spread of Buddhism and through imports from distant lands that reached the islands of Japan and the Korean peninsula. At its height, Chang'an or Xi'an, the capital of Tang China, was the largest city in the world, with a population of about 1 million. The cosmopolitan culture of this time is captured in striking ceramic figures found in tombs around Chang'an and other major Tang cities, demonstrating a desire to bring connections with the wider world even into the afterlife. This large and lively ceramic camel represents a 2-humped Bactrian camel common in Central Asia. It is laden with goods, including a full bag decorated with a monster mask. It also carries a twisted bundle of silk, an item exported from Tang China, and a Central or West Asian jug imitated by Chinese artisans. Camels can survive extreme conditions and spend days without food and water. Because of this, they were the primary mode of transportation in desert regions. They would have been a common sight along routes connecting China and Central Asia, as well as in the marketplaces of Chang'an. While camel caravans on desert paths is synonymous with the Silk Roads, this exhibition also highlights other routes and means of transport, such as travel by sea and river. Objects from a shipwreck found off the coast of Indonesia near the island of Belitung in 1998 reveals the scale and importance of maritime connections during the 9th century. The ship was on its return journey, probably from southern China to the ports of the Arabian Peninsula or Persian Gulf. It carried a cargo of over 60,000 items, the vast majority of which were Chinese ceramics intended for the West Asian market. It also included some precious gold and silver vessels that may have been diplomatic gifts. The next part of our journey takes us from the coastal region of Southeast Asia to the Indian subcontinent and the Tibetan plateau to the desert region in northwest China. Buddhism, which originated in India, continued to spread and develop along these regions and beyond. Dunhuang in northwest China is home to a vast Buddhist rock-cut temple complex. In 1900, a sealed chamber was discovered there containing some 70,000 manuscripts, paintings, textiles, and other objects. The chamber, popularly known as the Library Cave, is believed to have been sealed in the early 11th century for reasons that are still debated. Traveling monks, depicted as a supernatural being riding on a cloud and accompanied by a tame tiger in this painting, played a key role in the transmission and translation of religious knowledge. This 2.5-meter-high silk embroidery is one of the most magnificent finds from the Library Cave. It depicts the Buddha emerging from a rocky mountain, accompanied by bodhisattvas and disciples. Traces of embroidered text suggest the textile was commissioned by a senior monk at a monastery at Dunhuang. It was perhaps hung in a shrine as a focus for worship and is an impressive example of the use of silk for religious purposes. Material preserved in the Library Cave include writings in different languages, as well as images that capture different artistic styles and religious beliefs, such as this painting depicting a figure with features typical of a bodhisattva, but may in fact be an image of a Christian saint or even Jesus, since crosses are visible on the figure's headdress, necklace, and chest. The discovery of the Library Cave has transformed understanding of cultures and life in this part of the Silk Roads. It is paralleled in a sacred storeroom or geniza found thousands of kilometers away in a synagogue in Cairo, Egypt. This storeroom kept over 400,000 texts in many languages, offering a rich perspective on a Mediterranean society with international links, from the Iberian Peninsula to India.
Traveling from northwest China into Central Asia, we arrive in the city of Samarkand and Sogdiana, the homeland of the Sogdians, located in present-day Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. You might not have heard of the Sogdians before, but in their heyday between the 500s and 700s, Sogdians were very active traders along the Silk Roads. They left their footprints all over Eurasia, reaching into northern China, northern India, and the Mediterranean. Bridging communities and states, they were not only highly mobile. Sogdians excelled in commerce, diplomacy, and languages spoken and written along the routes they traveled. In the Tang China section of the exhibition, we encounter them represented as lower-rank individuals, as merchants carrying goods, animal grooms, and court entertainers performing music and dance. In the splendor of the aristocratic homes in Samarkand, Sogdian elites staged themselves as integral and even central to the political scene of the period. The wall painting section from the so-called Hall of Ambassadors, a reception hall found inside a residential complex at the Afrasiab archaeological site, dated to the mid-600s, illustrates the Sogdians' wide reach and lavish lifestyle. This section shows a ceremonial procession of Samarkand's ruler Varhuman to his ancestral shrine on the occasion of New Year's festivities. The ruler's entourage consists of his consorts and court members riding horses, camels, and an elephant. The central wall of the Hall of Ambassadors, which gives it its name, shows Warhuman receiving envoys from neighboring lands and kingdoms as far as Tang China, the Tibetan Plateau, and the Korean Peninsula. The presence of the large animals, as well as the richness of the costumes and accessories, display the connections of Sogdian aristocracy, their taste for luxury, and particularly their appreciation of patterned textiles. Sogdians were not just transmitting and consuming such high-priced products. Skillful metal workers and most likely silk weavers themselves, they also crafted silver vessels and colorful silks with a characteristic pattern with animals and roundels, so similar in composition to the ones in the paintings. The rich visual and material culture of the Sogdians, as well as their language, dissolved into the wider Islamic realm after Central Asia was conquered by Arab forces in the 8th century. A wall painting from the palace of Barakhsha near Bukhara is believed to have been commissioned by a Sogdian vassal appointed by the new Arab governor Qutayba ibn Muslim. The repeated composition that shows elephant riders fighting various beasts along the walls of the reception hall is unique in the Sogdian painting repertoire, which led scholars to speculate about an allusion to resistance against invading powers.
Our journey now takes us from Central Asia to Arabia, focusing on connections in the Islamic period. Islam was established in the early 7th century among the people of Arabia. Arab forces rapidly expanded their territories so that by the 8th century, Muslim rule spanned present-day Pakistan to Spain. The early Muslim rulers drew on the legacies of the Sasanian and Byzantine empires that had previously dominated West Asia. For instance, this lion sculpture was found in the throne room of Mashhad, a palace of the Umayyad Caliphate in present-day Jordan. It draws on associations between lions and rulership as symbols of authority, which were well established in the Sasanian culture. The movement of luxury goods and elite customs continued in the Islamic period, which is captured in this special group of 7 chess pieces. They are the earliest known group of chess pieces in the world, found underneath a mosque dated to the 8th century in Samarkand, in present-day Uzbekistan. Chess probably originated in India as an aristocratic game before spreading along the Silk Roads. It became a popular pastime across the Islamic world and eventually reached Europe. These pieces are made of elephant ivory, which probably also came from India. The Islamic world had far-flung connections. During the 9th and 10th centuries, it engaged in lucrative exchange with Scandinavian Vikings, which saw a vast number of Islamic silver dirhams flow north along the rivers of Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe to the Vikings' homelands and beyond. Recent research argues that the main commodity exchanged in return for these dirhams was human beings, part of a wider enslavement trade involving many regions and players evoked across the exhibition. Trade connections also led to innovations in production, such as the inspiration Islamic potters drew from Tang Chinese ceramics. These imports reached West Asia in large quantities through maritime routes, evidenced in the discovery of sherds and the massive cargo of the Belaton shipwreck. Islamic potters imitated the shapes and glazed white surfaces of Chinese imports, creating a new opaque white coating that was suitable for painted decoration, such as using blue cobalt probably imported from Iran. At the same time, potters in China also started to experiment with cobalt, suggesting a two-way exchange in ceramic production.
We arrived to the Mediterranean basin via the Red Sea, both of which were controlled by Christian states in the 6th century. Like today, the Red Sea was a strategic zone linking the Indian Ocean and Mediterranean worlds, and an important region connecting Africa and Arabia. Wealth and international prestige belonged to those who controlled access to it. And in the early 6th century, this was the Kingdom of Aksum, centered in the highlands of present-day Ethiopia, with its Red Sea port city of Adulis in present-day Eritrea. By the middle of the 3rd century, Aksum was already considered one of the 4 great world powers alongside Rome, Persia, and Selaos, which was probably China. The international outlook of the kings of Aksum is clear from their use of Greek alongside their own language, Ge'ez, in inscriptions and on coins. In the mid-4th century, they also adopted Christianity, the religion they shared with their Byzantine allies. The relationship between Aksum and Byzantium, well known through literary sources, is shown here in material from the port city of Adulis. A church, probably the Cathedral of Adulis, was built using traditional Aksumite construction techniques, but its chancel screen was made of Proskenesian marble. Proskenesian marble originates in quarries near Constantinople and was under imperial authority, suggesting that the screen may have been a diplomatic gift. In the middle of the 6th century, the Emperor Justinian's successful campaigns against both the Goths and the Sasanians united the Mediterranean basin under Byzantine rule. This coat is a remarkable survival of Eastern fashions found in Byzantine Egypt. The style of this crossover coat with a flared shape originates with the horse-riding fashions of the steppe that were also adopted in the Sasanian Empire, Byzantium's greatest rival. Once trimmed with silk, it has been radiocarbon dated to around 500, and further scientific analysis has shown its indigo-dyed fabric was woven from the finest blend of sheep's wool and cashmere. That is, the fine underfur of goats from the Himalayan region of Kashmir. Worn with silk-trimmed gaiters and leather boots, also suited to horse riding, the coat may have clothed a person who traveled from the east, or indeed someone wearing imported fashions, or a local imitation made of imported materials. By the end of the exhibition's chronology, around 1000, the Fatimid Empire ruled the southern and eastern Mediterranean from its capital Cairo, across northern Africa, the Levant, and Hejaz, controlling even the holy cities of Mecca and Medina for a time. Egypt had always been a crossroads, shown by imports found in provincial towns, with Baltic amber arriving from the north, and from the east, etched carnelian beads from Iran, green glass beads strung with tiny shells from India or Sri Lanka, and a string of cloves originating from present-day Indonesia. In the Fatimid period, Red Sea trade flourished, bringing to Cairo rock crystal from Madagascar, resist-dyed cotton textiles from India, and vast quantities of ceramics from China.
We've arrived on the Western European continent, following Muslim forces from North Africa to the Iberian Peninsula, today's Spain and Portugal, in 711. Over the years that followed, the region came under Islamic control and was renamed al-Andalus. At first, it was governed as an emirate of the Umayyad dynasty based in Damascus, but it became a wealthy, independent caliphate centering on its own admired capital, Córdoba. Society in al-Andalus was cosmopolitan, and different religions were tolerated. Arts, culture, and science flourished, and ideas and technologies were adopted and adapted from the diverse cultures that came into contact on the peninsula. The result was a new, distinctive Andalusi identity. This spectacular processional cross evokes the artistic interactions that emerged in this rich context. It's made of elephant ivory, a lustrous material favoured by artisans in many places along our journey, with good links to sources in Africa and India. The upper and lower arms of the cross are on loan from the Louvre Museum in Paris, and the horizontal arm from the National Archaeological Museum, Madrid. This exhibition reunites them for the first time in perhaps as long as 2 centuries. The cross is from a monastery in northern Spain, located in one of the Christian kingdoms that bordered al-Andalus. But its place of manufacture has intrigued experts. Its outstanding carvings of plants and animals, originally with a gilded background, compare well to imagery in Christian manuscripts, but also in Islamic ivories made for the Cordoban court, especially a particular motif of a bird with outstretched wings. So, who made the cross and where? This question remains a matter of discussion, but the elephant ivory used to make the cross probably was associated with al-Andalus, which had readier access to the material than Christian Europe through its connections to northern Africa. So, even if the cross was made in Christian Iberia, as some believe, a link with al-Andalus seems likely. But recent research has proposed that the cross was made in Cordoba by an Islamic artisan and sent north to the Christian kingdom of Pamplona as a diplomatic gift from the Andalusi Caliph Abd al-Rahman III to Queen Toda, who also happened to be his aunt. So, the cross highlights artistic exchange, but perhaps also political and familial interplay between the Muslim and Christian communities who live together on the Iberian Peninsula. From Al-Andalus, we cross the Pyrenees Mountains to northwest Europe. The region is not often thought of in terms of the Silk Roads, but it had significant connections with the wider world between 500 and 1000 CE. These links extended across Europe and into parts of Africa and Asia. For instance, we'll meet Charlemagne, ruler of Francia, centering on today's France and Germany, between 768 and 814. He forged a vast empire that stretched from the North Sea to Central Europe and Italy, and in 800 was crowned as the first emperor in Western Europe since the Romans. Indeed, he and his successors cast themselves as heirs to Rome, expressing this in their visual and material culture, which blended Mediterranean and Northwest European elements. But Charlemagne's connections extended further still into the Eastern Islamic world. In the years around 800, the two sides exchanged several diplomatic embassies and sent each other prestigious gifts, including, remarkably, an elephant named Abu al-Abbas, who trekked from the east to make a new life in Francia. From here, our journey crosses the sea to Britain and Ireland and explores the far-reaching contacts that persisted here even after parts of the region ceased to be within the Roman Empire from the early 400s. These stunning jewels characterise the diversity and innovative results of these international connections. They were found in a magnificent ship burial at Sutton Hoo in Suffolk, eastern England, perhaps the final resting place of a king of East Anglia who died in the early 600s. Each piece is made of gold and inset with glass and red garnets to create a glittering, mosaic-like surface. This technique, known as garnet cloisonné, probably originated in the Black Sea, Caucasus or West Asia region. From here, it spread west across Europe. We'll see examples also from Italy in the exhibition, and it arrived in Britain by the 500s, where it reached its zenith at Sutton Hoo. But the cloisonné technique also travelled east. A lavish dagger sheath made with the same technique appears in the first part of the exhibition, which focuses on East Asia. It was found in Shilla, Korea, in a tomb dating to a century before the Sutton Hoo burial. The dagger probably travelled a long way to get here. Analysis of its gold suggests that it was not made locally, and the shape of this part can be traced to northwest China and Central Asia. This remarkable find brings us full circle, demonstrating the extraordinary journeys that ideas could make along the Silk Road's networks. The garnets adorning cloisonné pieces also travelled. Preliminary results of scientific analysis undertaken for this exhibition with partners at a specialist laboratory in Paris has indicated that the garnets from Sutton Hoo likely originated on two continents, Czechia in Central Europe and Sri Lanka and India in distant South Asia. This tiny button from a sword scabbard blends gems from all three sources. The maker cleverly exploited their differing colours to enhance the design. In the centre, they used orange-red Czech and Sri Lankan garnets to make a cross motif and set it against a background of plum-purple Indian stones, likely from Rajasthan, which make the cross stand out. So, here we have objects that represent ideas from one part of the world and materials from another that were brought together somewhere else where they were reimagined into something new. We've reached our final stop and the last object in the exhibition, a remarkable whalebone casket made in northern England around 700. Like the Buddha figurine found in Sweden that started our journey, this casket is also from a place well beyond the traditional Silk Road's map. But in this case, the object had not itself travelled, but blends knowledge that had. Its surfaces are carved with images that narrate histories and tales from different places. Northern European myths like Wieland the Smith, Christian New Testament stories like the Three Magi, and Roman and Jewish history from Romulus and Remus to the siege of Jerusalem by the future Roman Emperor Titus in the year 70. These lively images are captioned in Latin and also in Old English, written in twig-like characters called runes used in early medieval Northern Europe. Through its imagery and texts, the casket offers a parting image of the deeply connected continents through which we have just travelled, something captured by a riddle inscribed in runes on the front panel. The solution is whale's bone, referring to the material used to make the casket. It's fitting that the object is not dedicated to a king or any other dignitary, but to the bone of a stranded whale that once swam in the seas that connected these islands with the networks of the Silk Roads.
The Silk Roads were active for millennia, but there's only a month left to journey through the exhibition yourself. You can get tickets here, and in the description, and in the pinned comment. And if you can't make it to the show, we have an amazing catalogue written by all the lovely curators you've met during this video, which you can also buy with those links.